Bitcoin's April closure was not just bearish and below the monthly 10 EMA, which is bad in and of itself, but it was what I'd call a hard closure, a hard bearish closure. I'm going to show you what that means and why it's so bad. And honestly, that closure is so bad that it makes me feel a little bit better having been somebody who's been talking more loudly and longer about bearishness than most sources of information on YouTube because of that monthly closure. The probabilities of strong downside movement are so great now that I'm not guaranteeing myself of capitulation. However, it makes me glad that I've been voicing bearishness for quite some time and longer and harder than most. So let's jump into the charts and see some downside targets and other probabilities on how this might play out. You're staring at the monthly chart. All these candles are 1 month. This is a hard red closure. Let's zoom in on it. You can see that there's pretty much no wick. Look at that. It closed on it. It sold into it, and so it's going down as the month closed. Look at that. Do you see any wick? No, that's a bare bottom red candle. That is honestly about as bad as you can get. And let's compare different monthly candles here. I'm going to zoom back out to where I was, and you are seeing essentially the 20K top all the way to current price. That's what you're staring at on this chart. 20K top in 2017. This is 2019, 2020. And when it took off, I think should be October. Yeah, October is that first big monthly green candle to start off the bull run of 2020. All right, so that's the time frame on this chart. Hard red closure. Now let's look at other closures. See how long and nasty that candle was right here? It still had a nice long buyback wick. Let me get my cursor out of the way and stare at that candle. See how that wick was? That wick at least shows a little bit of buy pressure to the upside at the end of the month. Some form of hope. And you can see that although the next month did come down and make slightly lower lows, things did recover from there. And you could see that in the wick of that big red, nasty, just very nasty monthly candle right there. All right. Now, and again, that was not a hard closure. The difference, right? This is a hard closure, no wick. All right. Now, look here. Look at this. This is a hard closure. Little tiny little thing right there. No pun intended, but I wasn't even thinking about what I was saying. Very, very small wick right there. Okay. And where did it close? Below the monthly 10. What happened after? And again, that was in 2020, February. And you might say, that's coronavirus. Well, I mean, even before coronavirus was a thing, I already had my limit buys down here for 5K. I was already targeting 5K for a retest of the lows. Much higher retest, obviously, because it had gone up to 14. But I had Bitcoin the limit buys down there for quite some time. Now, did I almost feel like deleting them as to get my tether back? And I think I did delete some throughout this, but as it went so high, I tried to play to the upside. But as things got more bearish, then I just said, okay, I'm holding tether and putting limit buys down here around, I get 4,800 to 5,200, I think is where I put them. And, based off that hard closure. And I think I put in some more around 5K after that and maybe called up. Now, I wouldn't suggest this, but I think I even took more money out than what I should have from other sources. I think I could have done that, but it ended up working out because I was able to buy Bitcoin at 5K. And again, that was after a hard closure, right? Very, very nasty closure. Now let's take a look at this closure right here. Even though things did capitulate thereafter, that is not as bad as a closure, and it closed above. So the next one closed below. That's not a hard closure because that has a wick there. This has a wick there, and it's still capitulated, right? So I guess this could be another way it rolls out. It just goes sideways, a little bit lower, and falls off some monthly cliff, and then it goes. So let's see this type of option as opposed to capitulation right now. So this could bounce up at the monthly 10, have a little, and this could be the cliff, the equivalent of the cliff right here. So what we could be looking at is something to, actually, let's just take a quick fractal of that. These 3 months right here. It could do something like that. So after this candle here, potentially next month closes below, it could then start capitulating somewhere in July, which I believe my origin wave theory video that I made, I think back in November, maybe early December. I mean, when things were still looking good, my origin wave theory was saying capitulation should happen. I think I said specifically between May and October in that of 2022 in that video, and I can link you to that at the end. I can't remember exactly what date. It might have been early December or late November when I made that. So this is this would align both these cases that I just showed you. Capitulation this month or sometime in July would both fit within those estimations that I was making way back when, to try to give people a heads up that it's not looking good, particularly the altcoin market and the altcoin market total 2 chart, which if you just type in total 2 into your chart and press enter on TradingView, you'll see the altcoin chart, and we can go ahead and take a look at that here in just a second. Make sure that if you haven't checked out my Discord yet, go ahead and see the links in the description section of all of my videos. You can jump on a live call, video and microphone on, to ask me questions directly up to 8 times a week. My Twitter handle is Cosasverdes with the number 2 afterward. And if online communities are not your thing, but you want extra content above and beyond what I offer on YouTube, go ahead and click the join button that's right below this video, and a new video will pop up describing your options to you. Hey, I'm on the top left now. Hit the wrong button. All right. Now, let's take a look at... So we were still looking at monthly hard closures, right? Let's look at some differences here. This month looked pretty bad, closed below, but it had a wick and things were able to recover. So that's not a hard red closure. There is a pretty big difference. This was a pretty bad closure, and it actually did recover quite a bit, actually, after a nice bump up. So that, but this bad closure here happened after 3 green ones, and was able to recover. So the situation was quite a little bit different. This is back December. So that was the January of 2016 candle. All right. So we're still looking for hard, nasty closures after some bearishness here. And what are we seeing here? Here was a hard, nasty closure. And did things end up going up fairly recently after that, or fairly soon after that? Yeah, it took about 4 months to really scream up, and that was the end of the 2013, blow off top there. It was a huge blow off top, but so you did get a hard closure, and you could argue, yeah, but it still recovered. Well, okay, just wait. Percentages back then were a little bit different, right? So these huge candles that we have now, they might not be as monstrous on a percentage basis. Watch. So from that closure to that wick low, so this is a pretty hard closure, right? To the wick low is about 30%. So it still went down 30% even though it recovered. So let's go to wick low, and I would say this is potentially best case scenario, what I'm about to show you. %30 would put you monthly closure at about 26K. And I'll go ahead and just make a line there, I guess. Now, what does 26K align with? Something that I've been talking about on my channel for quite some time. This guy right here, this channel. So if things were to capitulate, that line is roughly in line with the monthly 55, which I've been screaming at for quite a long time. Monthly closures below the monthly 10, which will pop up on a white line. Been talking about this channel for quite a while. It's quicksand, and that aligns roughly with the quicksand best case scenario, that it does not wick down to touch that weekly 55. In my opinion, I would say, in terms of trying to be reasonable with probabilities and predicting things based off what's most probable from a larger time frame standpoint, I would put that as best case scenario of what we're looking at here over the next couple months, and potentially sooner. So I want to be very clear with what I'm saying. I think that's best case, a wick down to only that low, because previous times that you had downturns, Bitcoin went below the monthly 55 to end things. And there are some EMAs on the weekly that get this stuff right. So let's see how that aligns. So let's go to the weekly chart. And we'll put on the 200 EMA and the 200 MA. And there are probably a lot of folks on YouTube who've talked about these lines, because the EMAs of the weekly, the 200s, have gotten the bear market stuff pretty well. So the MA is the dull orange and the EMA is the bright orange. And so both times, so this time the price stopped at the MA, but with coronavirus after that, remember hard closure? So this is where that hard closure was, right? And I was talking about, hey, I probably bought a little bit more Bitcoin at 5K than I should have. That's the same area after that hard closure. And it went below both of them. It did not stop. Let's see how that aligns. So the best case would be that it only hits the EMA and not the MA. The MA at this month is coming in right at about 21,700. If I had to make a single guess, I would guess that I don't know. I would probably make that my guess. If I could only guess one single thing out of the 10,000 things, okay, so there's an English word for that, the myriad things that could happen. If I could only make one guess, I would, and I was forced to put all my limit buys, like all my eggs in one basket. If I had to do that, which no one's forcing me to do, I would put all my eggs in that basket, maybe just a tiny bit above there at 21.9, something to that effect. And that would be my this version of buying Bitcoin at 5K. Making sense with what I'm saying? And that would be around $21,900 would be my single guess if I had to make one. And again, it's not statistically probable that that exact point is where things happen. However, if you could only pick one above all individual numbers, so counting by ones, right? Not by thousands or 5,000s. If you could only pick one number, that would probably be about my number, 21.9. All right? And again, to be more reasonable with guesses, I would probably put a box somewhere like this to account for it stops just before or it wicks just below. I would, probably do something to that effect of being more reasonable. So these would be my targets. And that's as low as 19.7, a wick below there. Which, honestly, if it went below 20K, it would probably go a little bit more than that. Honestly, I would drag that down to 18.7 because you would get a probably, I don't know if that would be called a long squeeze or what, but people longing at 20K, I think price would come down lower to get them out and give them a lot of pain, scare them out before coming back up. So really the idea of 20K being the top of 2017 and a ton of people eyeballing that. And in terms of futures, sorry, I just clicked something. Gosh, I would have to drag my box down a little bit lower if I want to be reasonable. So that would be my bear market target for Bitcoin. Somewhere between 18.7 and maybe 23K would be my box if I could only choose one box. And if you want to draw your own box and compare it over the months, that's cool with me. 18.6 to 21.3, so about a $5,000 or $4,500 box roughly. Just call it about $4,500. And if you want to draw yours and leave me comments on Twitter when I post something to that effect, then you can show me where your $4,500 box is. And again, my Twitter handle has a 2 at the end, Cosasverdes with the number 2. All right, now let's take a look at how bad this looks on the daily here with the monthly closure, so you can see a few more candles. And just see how this looks with a little bit more chaos. Let's look at where the monthly 10 is aligning structurally within more recent price history. Look at all the things that see the monthly 10 and the closure below, watch. This support area, that huge wick, all that, this important down move that actually recovered, this resistance, this resistance, this resistance, and a bad hard closure below that. So that could have been your cliff. And it got above and could not bounce on it. And it closed a hard monthly closure below that. So I don't think that this is going to be the cliff. I think that is the cliff, and it fell off and held on for dear life and came up. I would guess this is the cliff as opposed to 30,000 being the cliffhanger. However, it could be like a double cliff. It's possible that you get a fast move down to 30K and then a hard move back up. This is all possible. And then it takes its sweet time going like this, like it did in 2018, going sideways, and then capitulates in the later months of what I was guessing back in December of beginning of Q3 2022, and my guess was as late as October, I believe, in that video. September, October, I don't know what month I said for the ending, but I believe the ending guess of that would be October. So something to that effect. You do have a double cliff. And that type of price action could actually happen instead of one fell swoop all the way down, with the assumption that it falls down. It's still, I guess it technically could recover. There is a non-zero probability of that happening. However, I wouldn't. I'm too shy to say single digit chances, but it's probably not great chances that you're going to get a rebound off of here. So let's so it could not close above this box here, which is shelf number 1. Got above, fell back below it. But remember how important the trend is and lower lows and higher highs from my most recent video on how to do better in Bitcoin? Low, higher low, higher low. I guess technically that was a lower low, but we'll call that higher low than that one. Higher low, high, higher high. So you had a daily uptrend, still daily uptrend, still daily uptrend, still daily uptrend. Yeah, I don't know if I'd call that the next higher low, though. I would call this the higher low. And look what just happened. Let me put a line there. Lower low. With a higher low here, or a lower high, sorry, lower high and lower low, officially sealed in. And that was the April 30th close. So this is both bearish on the daily in terms of the trend, and it's bearish in regard to the monthly being a hard candle closure, with the idea that the Fed's making an announcement this week, I think Tuesday and Wednesday. Things could get really ugly once folks get confirmation of the stuff that will happen with global monetary policy. We cover more of that within the Discord community and how we're going to play that based off of dates and the information given at hand. But things really could get nasty. I mean, you got global wars going on. I mean, China beating their drums in regards to Taiwan. I mean, things are not in a very good not looking very good either globally or in the patterns of Bitcoin or the patterns within traditional markets right now. Everything is yelling downside, downside, downside. And again, go ahead and click this, actually wrong side, this video over here on the top if you want to see that origin wave theory, and go ahead and click this video over here. It could be the most important Bitcoin and crypto video you've ever seen if you didn't already watch it, and we'll see you next time.